guys, thanks for watching this video. I got a lot of stick recently for doing a YouTube short where I rated my top 5 blues rock guitarists, and sticking Eric Clapton at the #1 top spot. And a lot of people have given me a lot of feedback and likes and comments on that, saying how wrong I was and that Stevie Ray Vaughan should have been the top, or Albert King and so many other players, but I have no regrets. And that short has actually brought in hundreds of new subscribers, really improved my ratings, and I'm now a hair's width away from monetization, which is great. And I'm about to get a bit more stick online, I'd imagine, because being an absolute fanboy of Eric Clapton, I've booked myself VIP seats at my local cinema to go see Across 24 Nights, the new remastered HD Albert Hall gigs from the late 80s or early 90s at the cinema tonight. And you're going to come along for my reactions and review. I don't expect that many views from this video, but I thought, hey, you know what, let's take the opportunity to do a little vlog, and we'll go on a trip together and see what we think. I just kind of want to set the scene as to why I have such a kind of like infatuation with Eric Clapton. So my dad brought me up on his generation of stuff. He was born 1950, so he grew up just at that perfect time in 1968. Hitting it as an 18-year-old, being exposed to like the Woodstock movie. I was introduced to that at a young age. The likes of Cream and the Rolling Stones, The Who. And I first got into Clapton via Cream. And I hit Cream hard. I later went into the whole John Mayall and the Blues Breakers B&O album. And then when I started getting really into guitar, it's that kind of early 2000s kind of era. So that would have been Reptile era, somewhere around, and Back Home, that album, somewhere around there. But I really like, if you haven't guessed already, the kind of like very middle of the road pop rock kind of sound. And Clapton at that time was just perfect for that. Songs like Broken Hearted were just amazing to me, and it really got me into a very contemporary look at guitar. Because at the time I was very hard rock. I was focused on like Cream and Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, stuff like that. So it mellowed me out, basically. And when the Queen's Jubilee came along, and Eric Clapton, Paul McCartney, Joe Cocker, oh my god, it was such an amazing lineup. But seeing Eric Clapton play Layla at the Queen's Jubilee, was just a complete game changer. And there was a lot of other acts there, as I say, there was like Bryan Adams, and I'm a massive Bryan Adams fan as well. Controversial, I know, because a lot of people think, you like blues rock, you should be into just blues rock, but no. I like everything. I love musical theatre, I like ballad pop songs, I love it all. I just love music, I just absorb music wherever I go. But yeah, so basically listened to all my dad's CDs, watched all the Blu-rays. I learned to play guitar by ear, and that was mostly from watching Eric Clapton DVDs and Blu-rays and copying everything that he did. And that's why I'm not trying to be an Eric Clapton, but I steal a lot of licks from him and stuff. So yeah, he means a lot to me. He was my main hero. I've seen him about 7 times. More recently, I probably wouldn't look to see him again. The last few times he's played exactly the same set, and he's kind of just doing it for the sake of doing it, I feel now. And I respect the guy so much, and to someone that's never seen him before, he plays all the hits and it's great. He still sounds amazing, he can still play very well. But my main draw to seeing the 24 Nights remastered version is that it was a pinnacle record for me to listen to. I'm actually now working on a cover of the 24 Nights version of Wonderful Tonight, which I think is just his generic late 80s, early 90s kind of version that he was doing with the Keys intro and stuff. But hopefully I'll get a few views on that. But yeah, I'm just really excited to kind of live that classic Clapton, to me, classic Clapton era again, that kind of like 80s, 90s vibe that he had. I love all of his work in the Lethal Weapon movies, and working on Edge of Darkness and Rush and all that kind of soundtrack work. The guy just means a lot to me. It'll be a very sad day when he departs us, but I'm very excited about seeing this concert tonight. Very, very excited. So I'm going to be a loner. I'm going on my own. But yeah, hopefully there'll be a good turnout for it, and it's going to be, I know it's going to be enjoyable. Also, Michael Kamen, this guy's not talked about enough. He provided the orchestral accompaniment, conducted the orchestra on the 24 Nights concerts. He also did the S&M gigs with Metallica, and did scores for movies like Lethal Weapon and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which were mind-blowing to me growing up, and loving all that kind of like scores and movie soundtracks and stuff. And it'll be great to see him again, because he unfortunately died about 2004, I think, 2005, somewhere around there. So yeah, very excited, and stay tuned. So, I'm in the car now. I've got an hour to get, it's a 15-minute drive, but I'm going to turn up early. I've reserved one ticket, VIP. Oh my god, this is meant to be seat number E1, as in Eric's number one. Now, I know I get a lot of flack for thinking that Eric's number one, but he's number one. What am I expecting? At least a poster out saying that this is, because to me this is an amazing event. You know, like he's got a gig, cinema release, and I want at least a poster to be out. Turnout, I mean, I'm hopeful that someone will turn up. I mean, Clapton's a bit of a weird celebrity figure these days because of the whole pandemic and anti-vax thing. Was he anti-vax though? I'm not certain on that. I think he was more anti-establishment and just wanted to work as a musician. I think that's more the angle that he went down. And his own personal circumstance. He claims, obviously, that he was quite sick after having a vaccination. I, on the other hand, am a type 1 diabetic, and I've been vaccinated 4 or 5 times. No blood clots yet. And no Wi-Fi, which is unfortunate, because I was hoping that I'd get some Wi-Fi. So yeah, I'm expecting at least a poster, at least a little bit of turnout. I don't want to be the only guy there. So, you know, I'm very pumped and very excited. I mean, I've seen the original release many times. I'm hoping for a widescreen, upscaled version of the gig, because I think it was in letterbox kind of standard 4x3. Is it 4x3 format? I'm hoping that they've got the original on film and not some kind of tape, and that they've been able to upscale it nicely. Sound, I'm sure, is going to be amazing. The trailer was amazing in terms of sound on my studio speakers, so I'm hoping that that's going to be great. And just a lot more content that I haven't seen before. I mean, the physical release of the Across 24 Nights, I mean, it's ridiculously priced. Even the CD is like, I think, 189, something like that. And the vinyl's like 240 to 280, something like that. I mean, it's expensive, but I want it so bad because I'm such a sucker for anything that's Eric Clapton. I'm just a massive fan. I can't help it. Absolutely massive fan. There's just so many shades of Eric Clapton. You know, there's the Yardbirds, Cream, Blues Breakers, 70s, heavy on the drugs Clapton, 80s, heavy on the drink, but perfect pop Clapton, 90s, middle of the road, and just being absolutely awesome Clapton. Early 2000s, starting to get a little bit on the slow side, but I mean, Back Home was probably the last good album that he's released. I mean, I quite like the Christmas album that he did the other year, but either way, Eric, I've got your back. I'm excited and pumped. I've been telling everyone that I'm going. No one cares. I'm going on my own, but it makes me happy. So, you know, whatever. But let's see. So I'm on my way to the cinema now, but I'm just thinking about Eric Clapton and, you know, Eric Clapton's story is personal to me, and I've got a semi-Clapton story that I was just thinking about. So I used to live in Colchester in Essex, and I caught wind of the fact that Jack Bruce was, this isn't an Eric Clapton story, it's a Jack Bruce story really. But I caught wind that Jack Bruce was opening a bass room, or like a shop that had opened up like a new Warwick bass room. Anyway, so yeah, everyone was like, Jack Bruce is going to turn up at this guitar shop. You get a meet and greet as well. Not many people know about it, so I was like one of maybe 10 or 15 people that were waiting outside. Sure enough, he turned up. I think he lived locally in the area. And I went in, he had like a little interview with the press. And I remember his manager was just like the most gangster-looking London guy ever. Loads of gold rings. And, you know, I was heavily into Cream at the time, and it was a big deal for me. So I went up and had a quick chat with him, and I was like, oh, can you sign? I had like a scrap of paper. Can you sign this for my dad? And his words were the following: I'll sign anything but a check. And I'll always remember that, but I lost the signature. But, you know, I was a student. Well, I'm outside the cinema. I didn't get my Eric Clapton poster wish, but we'll see what's inside. No posters inside, but there he is. Starts in 21 minutes. So it's really low light in here, but I'm 20 minutes early, and I'm the only one here currently. Well, I'm back. I just got in, thoroughly enjoyed the evening, and it turned out to be quite emotional actually. So in total there was 10 of us in the cinema, and everyone was very nice. We all got chatting to each other, and just chatting to the couple that were sitting next to me. Funny enough, they were there on one of the evenings of the 24 Nights concert, so they'd come as a couple to kind of relive that moment together, and they were describing the night that the atmosphere was kind of electric. The theatrical release across 24 Nights is very good in most cases. I think if not all the tracks are different than the original release, or at least different performances on different nights of, because obviously they've got Layla and Wonderful Tonight and songs that are on the original release as well, but I'm fairly certain in saying that it seemed to me to be completely fresh performances on each. The sound was absolutely incredible. I mean, it was quite emotional for me because, as I mentioned earlier, I really love Eric and his playing. He means a lot to me. You know, I learned to play by listening to his records and copying him. And whenever I go to see him, it's always just a bit lacking for me. I always kind of want that essence of what he was like back in the 80s and 90s, 24 Nights era, or, you know, just, he seemed to be, I don't know, just having fun out there, whilst these days he seems a bit more probably ready for retirement, but I still love the guy, and I've taken the choice not to see him anymore, but that's by the by. So yeah, it was really quite emotional because I've always wanted to see him in his kind of element, and this concert just kind of captured that. I mean, I noticed for certain that they'd kind of put the atmosphere of the Albert Hall, like the kind of echoey reverberation of the Albert Hall, those that have been will know. I mean, you can hit a snare drum in that place and you've got reverb for about the next 30 seconds. But they'd kind of centered the kind of generic Albert Hall sounds to like the back left. And for someone that's been to the Albert Hall many times, it kind of made me feel like I was there. I mean, the mix was amazing. You know, you could hear every backing vocal. It was obviously in Dolby surround sound, so I don't know whether or not that'd be, if there's a Blu-ray release, whether or not that can be replicated, you know, at home. But I mean, the orchestra sounded great. It just sounded as though, you know, especially with like the blues nights as well, the bits that they showed, there was only 2 or 3 tracks that were blues nights, but it kind of sounded as though, you know, there's Eric's amp over on the right, Buddy Guy's over on the left, Albert Collins kind of like center left, and They were all kind of like varying volumes. It sounded very authentic. It sounded really good. So sound-wise, absolutely 10 out of 10. Sounded amazing. And I just hope that if there is a Blu-ray release, or with the vinyl or, you know, CD releases that they're doing, it kind of is as good as that, because it was just absolutely amazing. In terms of picture quality, I mean, there is an upgrade from what we're used to with like the VHS 24 nights or the DVD copies of it. I think they can only work with what they've got though. The DVD version was very much just the VHS version, but kind of upscaled to DVD. And it was very apparent that on some nights they had very good video quality, and on others it's quite lacking. So some of the upscaling is great on some performances from some nights, and on others it's not really that much better than the DVD version. Another downside is it's not cropped to widescreen, or the original film wasn't shot in widescreen. It's all in kind of like standard TV format. So I was hoping it would be in widescreen, but you know, that's by the by. I mean, they've made up for it in a lot of it is, you know, in the standard box TV format, and then they've tried to make it widescreen at some points by putting other camera angles around it to spread out the picture and show like multiple angles at one time. It really works. They should have probably done it for like the majority of the gig, but it's only every now and again that they kind of bring that in. So yeah, quality, it's not great. It's not 4K to me. But you know, it's better than what we had, and that with the sound, you know, it was really very good. Performances, so as I mentioned, it seemed to be completely different performances than the original release, which is great on one hand because it was very fresh and I didn't feel like I was watching the same thing over again. But at the same time, I kind of want the original now in an upscaled version, and you know, absolutely amazing sound. And I know that with the CD release they're going to have all the audio for that, but I mean, I just kind of want all the footage from across the 24 nights that they have available. But yeah, standout performances for me were, I mean, they had a lot of fan favourites in there. As a Clapton fan, I think, you know, most people probably feel this way, that go and see him often, but they had Cocaine, which was like an 8-minute version, and it had a very weird synth solo in it, which I didn't really feel as though it worked. But, you know, it was cool. I mean, it's just, you know, it's those 3 chords basically, and over again. I mean, the guy next to me went for a toilet break during that song, and I was kind of tempted to myself, just because it's kind of, I don't know why they always focus on that song so much. But you know, it was a good enough performance. But standout performances for me were, let's think, Edge of Darkness. Now they've got a lot of Michael Kamen on this new release, and it was emotional as well to see Michael Kamen, because for me, my first musical influences was from movies. So I'll probably mention this in a previous like Q&A video or another video that I've done, but Robin Hood Prince of Thieves was a massive influence on me in terms of just the score. And then obviously later down the line, I start getting into Clapton, and then realised that, hang on, well, Clapton did the Lethal Weapon soundtrack with Michael Kamen. I really loved like Eric's work with the orchestral kind of accompaniment, and I mean, it was amazing. Almost brought a tear to my eye. There was Holy Mother. That was a great performance as well. And there's a track by Albert Collins as well, which is on one of the blues nights. I mean, Robert Cray is in the back. I don't know if it's because of their falling out over the pandemic, but there's not much of, you can see him in the background, but there's not much of Robert Cray around. And I was kind of hoping that they'd put a different version of Old Love, because it's basically my favourite song from the original 24 Nights. It's just an amazing track that they recorded, but there was no Old Love. The Layla was good. I mean, the Layla had a nice little intro from Nathan East. Nathan East and Greg Phillinganes are really given a lot more time in this release as well. So they have like little solo sections and lots of Phil Collins playing drums. Knocking on Heaven's Door, that's a good version. Really stripped back, mostly backing vocals and guitar, which was really nice. There's some very interesting versions. Like, there's a lot of fan favourites, but a lot of it is completely different than what I've ever heard before. And I just can't help but feel like, why doesn't he change it up a bit? Like, he's got this whole back catalogue that he never plays, but always plays the hits, but always plays the hits in exactly the same way. And I mean, yeah, he's, you know, late 70s now, and I guess, you know, the time has passed for changing it up a bit. I mean, if you want to see Clapton in his prime, this is it. Wonderful Tonight was a good version. It was the kind of like 80s with the synth start, you know, and the orchestra was accompanying it as well, which was awesome. And I just can't describe to you how good the sound was in the cinema. It was absolutely incredible. So guys, I just want to say thanks for following me on my trip to the cinema tonight. It was the first time I've been to the cinema since COVID. And I mean, I'm not expecting very many views on this video, but at least I can look back on it and remember the night that I went to see the Across 24 Nights concert. But yeah, I can't wait. I hope there's a Blu-ray release. And I mean, it's so expensive, but I'm sorely tempted by the vinyl, you know, package that they're doing with it as well. But anyway, we'll end the video here, but I'll play you out with a track that seems to be apt for this evening. I think you'll know it. It's half a track, really.